I've been running out of these things. I need to get more. And this guy right here, this redhead guy from Janesville, he's making sure I don't lose this one because I'll lose my last one. So you can go to better.gop, and I can just make sure that Ian will get a bunch of them and hand them out. Yeah.
You're at Packers training camp. What do you think the Packers' chances are?
I'm really excited about this. This is one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. All right. How many of you are Packers fans? Okay, those are the people I'm going to answer questions from. Sorry. So they've invited me up there to film a thing as a diehard, lifelong Packer fan for a documentary. And I got to go watch practice. You ever done that? You know, where the kids bring their bikes and they ride the bikes to the training field. Number 11, this new receiver we've got, that guy's got really good hands. I'm really excited about him. Brent Hundley's got a little bit of an ankle issue, so I'm kind of glad the game got postponed because it got canceled. There's something with the turf there, I guess. And
hey,
so
good morning,
remember we lost
Jason.
Jordy
Yeah,
Nelson's
no surprise that
ACL
Donald
in
Trump
preseason.
is
So I'm
trying
always
to
a little
change
worried
the
about
narrative
preseason and
after a
injuries.
week full of
But I've got to tell you,
controversies last
the
week.
linebacker
And now this
core,
latest round of
we got a
polling,
new,
national polling and state
defensive
polling in
lineman
the
from
battleground
Indiana. That guy's
areas
looking really
that
tough.
show him
We got a new
trailing
linebacker
Hillary
from
Clinton
Stanford.
badly.
I think Jake Ryan's going to be in prime shape. Clay Matthews, we can't say enough about him. And we got all our receivers back. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is in perfect health. So if we keep healthy, I feel really good about this team. Eddie Lacy looks pretty lean. I mean, he did this workout I do called P90X. And if you take a look at Eddie Lacy, he has really leaned himself up, or down, I guess I should say. So that was one of his goals. So he's looking really tough. Starks look great. So it's really kind of cool to watch these guys. These guys you've idolized, for years, just running plays. So I feel real good about it, and I'm kind of glad the game got canceled because of the field. I don't know what the deal is with that, other than to say that's one less preseason game where we can get an injury. So that's the way I look at it. Go Pack. Yeah. I can't see. Anybody else? Yeah.
So you had mentioned in this pamphlet about lowering tax rates for corporations. Where would you make up for those changes?
So that's a really, really good question. Lowering tax rates. We actually want to lower tax rates for families as well, across the board. Where would you make up with it? You get rid of loopholes in the tax code. So you've got lots of different loopholes in the tax code. One of them is state and local tax deduction. That's one of the ones we propose. So what happens is in the tax code
McMullen
is
tells ABC News
you have
that America
higher tax
deserves
rates to
better
raise
than
revenue for the
Donald
government.
Trump or Hillary Clinton,
And the more
and
you
he
put
offers
special
a
interest carve out
conservative choice.
for a
But
specific
Jason, it's going to be
group or an
very
industry that
difficult
get
for him
lobbied
to
in the
get
tax
on the
code,
ballots
that
in
means
every
less
state.
income is
In
subject
fact,
to
in places
taxation,
like
and you have to have higher
Texas,
tax rates on
his
everybody.
supporters will have
Pull
to
out the
probably
loopholes,
sue to
you get
get his
lower
name
tax rates for
added.
everybody.
Reporting live from Washington,
And what
Garrett
we learned
Travers,
is,
ABC 30 Action News.
if we actually give
Jason.
businesses the incentive to expand domestically, to buy more machines, to buy more buildings and more CNC machines, they'll put more people to work, and that will actually increase the economy. So there's some things we do we think that will give us better economic growth. But at the end of the day, to get those rates down, pull the loopholes away so that you can lower tax rates. The theory is this. Either we stick with the current code it is, it's the worst one in the industrialized world, it puts us at a huge disadvantage with our foreign competitors. We stick with it now, which says you send your money to Washington, and then if you engage in some kind of activity or behavior that Washington approves of, they'll let you have some of your money back after you do that. That's the current thinking in the tax code. Our thinking is, no, let's reject that. Let's stop that and then just lower the rates, and you keep it in the first place. You decide what you want to do with your money, whether you're a family or a business. You do that, and you'll have faster economic growth. And you'll have less tinkering with the tax code, special interest loopholes in the tax code, than we have today. And as a result, I will strongly argue you'll get faster economic growth. The problem is this. A&E, you're competing against other countries. You're competing against other manufacturers who will make ratchets, who will make tools, who are making these things in other countries. They're taxed at much, much lower rates than A&E is taxed. So in order to be price competitive, A&E has to pay taxes and then compete on price against companies, say in Canada, that are taxed at 15% or 25% in Japan or in China or wherever. We shouldn't do that. The other thing is, most of our other countries that we compete with, they border adjust their taxes. So they have these things called consumption taxes. So they take the tax off of their exports and they place the tax on their imports. So let's just take something we all know, like Harley Davidson. We're proud of Harley. We make them in Milwaukee. Honda makes Gold Wings. Aren't Gold Wings by Honda? So it's something that kind of competes with Harley. It's not exactly, but it's a similar, really nice motorcycle. So in Japan, they'll make a Gold Wing, and let's just say they sell it to Germany. Japan will make that Gold Wing and send it to Germany. They take the tax off of it as it's exported. And let's just say we send a Harley to Germany. We tax that Harley, and then it goes to Germany. Then they sell it into Germany. So you go to a Harley dealer in Germany, and you go to a Gold Wing dealer in Germany, you buy it. What happens then is, when Japan makes that money, they take that money home and reinvest it in Japan, no questions asked. They pay the German tax, they don't pay a Japanese tax. We sell that hog in Germany, we pay the German tax, and then if we want to bring that money back to reinvest in Milwaukee, we got to pay another American tax on top of it. So it's just a double duty. And oh, by the way, when that hog goes into Germany, it's taxed on the way in as an import. We do the opposite. We tax exports and not imports. So what we propose is to flip it so that we're like everybody else. So take the tax off our exports. So you're encouraged to make it here and send it over there, not make it over there, and then put an equal tax on our imports, which is called border adjusting our taxes. It's not tariffs, it's not a trade war. It just equalizes our taxes just like everybody else, so we're on the same playing field. It's all about leveling the playing field so that American manufacturers, it makes sense to make it in America. Look, we're losing the biggest public company in Wisconsin is Johnson Controls. You guys ever heard of Johnson Controls? You know, they're probably making the thermostat here. They're now becoming an Irish company because they're doing this transaction to become Irish. That means, you know, I love Irish. I'm half Irish, but I don't like the fact that people are going to go become Irish companies. Their tax rate is 12.5%. So this is the problem. We have more and more American companies becoming foreign companies, in part, not always, but in part because of the tax code. Miller is brewed in Milwaukee, but it's not owned, it's not an American company anymore. It's on its way to becoming a Belgian company. So what we're trying to do is clean up our tax laws so that it makes sense to be an American company. It pays to be an American company so that we can make things in America and put ourselves in a better position so that we can make things and sell them overseas. The last point I'd say is this. 96% of the world's consumers, the world's people, they don't live in America. They live in the other countries. So if we want to have a good economy, where we make stuff here, have faster growing economy, we have to sell things to other people overseas. And we have to set ourselves up to be successful to be able to do that. Because we're only 4.5% of the world's population. And there's no way we could possibly consume all that we produce in America because we're a good economy, we're a stronger economy. So we have to open up markets to our products, and we have to get our tax laws competitive so that it makes sense to keep making stuff here. Harley should keep making in Milwaukee, and we should not give them a tax code that makes it harder for them to compete with Honda when they're trying to sell hogs against Gold Wings. So that is the thinking behind what we're trying to do and what we're proposing. And Ian will give you that pamphlet to show you what it looks like. Yeah.
Just to follow up, what's the likelihood, in your opinion, that the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Accord, that will come before Congress and get voted on?
I don't think, well, first of all, I don't think there's a high likelihood right now because A, we don't have the votes to pass it because people like me have problems with some significant provisions of it that we believe need to get fixed. But here's the point. We do need trade agreements. I know a lot of people say just get rid of trade agreements, don't do trade agreements, and that's terrible. That's a problem for us. Here's why. I just said it. If 96% of the world's consumers live in other countries, and we have to make things to sell them overseas to keep us fully employed, you've got to open up markets to our products. There's 3 points I'm going to make. That's point number one. Point number two, we're in a global economy whether we like it or not. The question is, who is going to write the rules for the global economy? Is America going to write the rules to benefit us, or will we retreat and not play the game, not get involved, and let other countries like China write the rules? We don't have a trade agreement with China. We won't have one anytime in the near future. And we don't want to cede the playing field so that China writes the rules to benefit China at our expense. And so it's really important that we get other countries to agree to play by our rules, our standards, our rules and standards so that we're not undercut, so that we can get a level playing field. It's really important for us to be able to go do that. Right now, that agreement isn't there. It isn't up to those standards yet, in my opinion. And because of that, and it's just because there are many other people who agree with me, it doesn't have the votes to go. But it's important that we go get good agreements. Let me give you another example. Not just Asia, Europe. The Europeans are going around the world trying to get other countries to agree to their dairy standards for cheese. So we not only put cheese on our heads when we go to Lambeau Field, we eat a lot of cheese. But there is no way we can eat as much cheese as we produce in Wisconsin. Our dairy farmers and our cheese producers, which is one of our big exports here in Wisconsin, it is basically the big employment of rural Wisconsin. We make Colby, we make Swiss, we make Gouda, we make Parmesan, you name it. Europe is getting other countries to say, if the name of the cheese has a European name on it, you can only buy it from Europe, you can't buy it from America. They got Canada to agree to this. So Canada now, according to this agreement, if we make Gouda or Parmesan, if Sargento makes Swiss up in Green Bay, Canada can't buy it. It's got to be coming from Europe. So here's the problem. If you're standing still in trade doing nothing, you're falling behind. So we've got all these other countries going around the world getting better deals for themselves, knocking us out of those markets, so that our dairy farmers can't, grow dairy, grow cows, make cheese, sell it into these markets. So this is why you have to be engaged. We've got to go get the Canadians to drop that now. Now we've got to go back and undo the damage that was done. So that's why you need trade agreements to say, don't agree to their rules, agree to these rules, our rules, so that we can have these markets for our products. That's why it's important that we actually have trade. The question is it a good agreement or not? And that's what Donald Trump says right, which is we want good trade agreements. We don't want bad ones, we want good ones. But you've got to have, in an economy like this, good ones so we can make it here and sell it over there instead of making it there to sell over there. That's the difference here. Time for one more? Okay. Yeah.
You've been talking a lot about the taxes from other countries and stuff. What I've seen locally, being grown up pretty much in Racine my whole life, you're from Janesville, companies like General Motors, obviously Beloit and Racine are usually the worst unemployment in the state.
Right.
What can be done to help Racine, Janesville, Beloit areas? What can be done to even keep some of the companies that we've lost over the years? We've had a lot of major manufacturing in Racine and Beloit gone. What can we do to compete against other states to improve our areas?
Well, so there's a state component to that, but there's a federal. So Scott Walker and I talk about this a lot. We actually make recruitment calls to businesses in other states to come to Wisconsin. Uline is bringing up all of their businesses from Illinois. And they're going to have 2,500 people working there over in Pleasant Prairie. I was at Kenall Manufacturing, a high-tech light manufacturer. Got them to move up to Illinois to come to Wisconsin. I was there last week. So because Wisconsin has gotten its act together in that we don't have a big pension problem, we don't have a huge tax and regulatory problem, states are finding Wisconsin a better business climate, especially compared to states like Illinois. So we've actually succeeded in getting some companies to come up into Wisconsin, especially since we're the state line. But that doesn't speak to the international problem. So Racine, Janesville, and Beloit, really similar towns, very, very similar. A lot of the guys I grew up with in high school at Janesville Craig worked at the plant, lost their jobs when the plant shut down. I mean, look at what we used to have here in Racine. Case isn't as big as it used to be. IC Johnson's doing pretty well, but Textron's gone. I was over at Twin Disc last week. Twin Disc is still doing all right, but they used to have more people working there. So what that tells me is these are all manufacturers, number one. Number two, what are their two biggest costs? Regulations, which are now being written by unelected bureaucrats with no eye toward whether it makes sense or whether it helps an American business succeed. That's why we have two things that we're pushing on regulations to lower the cost of regulations. And number two, I think the taxes is a huge issue. And then we do have to open up markets. About 50% of what they make over at Twin Disc is exported. So for Twin Disc to be fully employed, which they make transmissions for marine industry and for really big trucks, like tank recovery vehicles, they've got to export that stuff. So we have to make it so that it makes sense to make it in America and that they can sell it overseas. 3 out of 10 tractors rolling off the line over at Case here has got to go overseas. So we've got to open up those markets so Case can continue to make Magnums in Racine, sell them overseas. And the big problem is the way we tax ourselves. It penalizes those companies for selling it overseas because they can't take that money back because of U.S. tax laws. So I think the things that as a federal guy I can do is get our tax fixed so manufacturers, it makes sense to make it in Wisconsin. Write off all of your investments in Wisconsin the year in which it takes place. Get your rates where everybody else is. And if you make it here and sell it over there, you can bring your money back to reinvest here. Our tax laws should not penalize that, they should reward it. To me, that's the number one thing we can do. We think this will create 1.7 million new jobs. That's one of the estimates we've seen. Add about 9% growth to our economy. And then the regulations. That's what kills a lot of these businesses. They got so many regulations coming from the federal government that it creates so much uncertainty into our economy. Those are the two things that I get from my employers, you, here in the district, as it will really help us make more stuff here in Wisconsin and revive these manufacturing towns. And then it's really up to this governor and the state legislature who have fixed a lot of problems, and because they have fixed a lot of the problems, you see these Illinois businesses coming up into Wisconsin. Thousands of jobs have come up in Wisconsin. When we recruited Amazon over in Kenosha, have you seen that thing on the interstate, that Amazon? It's incredible. They've got 2,500 people, and they're going to be, at the end of the day, it looks like they're going to have about 5,000 people working there. Why? Because we are located well in the country, in the right place, but they found a stable business climate. And that's one of the reasons why we think we are able to attract big employers like that, and we're trying to get more. Yeah. Hey, everybody, like I said, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hearing me out today, and thanks for the questions. Appreciate it.